Stevie Ray Vaughan was an emotional manipulator with his solos. It was often just by using 4 basic tricks that I find intermediates don't use at all. What's amazing is that it doesn't require you knowing notes all over the fretboard. He usually just stuck to 2 basic positions of the minor pentatonic scale. And the first tool is one that musicians have been using for centuries, but most intermediates miss. Step 1. Stevie Ray Vaughan's playing had this incredible emotional range that draws you in. Listen to this section from Riviera Paradise. Why does this feel so much more emotional than a typical guitar solo? He's controlling volume to create emotional impact. While most intermediate players play everything at the same volume level, creating flat, monotonous solos. Soft is intimate and loud is exciting. If you look at classical music, you see volume directions written everywhere. These symbols. The Beatles mastered this. Look at this waveform, and you can see this massive contrast between soft and loud parts in A Day in the Life. Then the 2000s happened and computer compression squashed all that beautiful dynamic range out of pop music. Hey computers, piss off. But you can make dynamic range your secret weapon when you play the blues. Listen again and notice how Stevie Ray Vaughan gradually brings up the volume, and as the phrase develops, he then drops it all the way back down again. What do you think creates more emotional impact? Playing everything loud or using this contrast? So try this. Practice a lick at 3 volume levels. Soft, medium, and loud. And you can notice they're almost like 3 different things entirely. But volume control is useless without understanding how Stevie Ray Vaughan mastered the element of time. Intermediates either play fast or slow down, trying to be emotional. While Stevie Ray Vaughan knew exactly when to use each speed for maximum impact. Listen to this section and notice something about the pacing. What's he doing that makes relatively simple runs sound so impressive? He's using slow parts to make relatively faster parts sound epic. Now Stevie Ray Vaughan can definitely play super fast, but he's not trying to show off these blazing speed. By ending a fast phrase slowly, it creates this illusion of bending time, and it really draws you in. Stevie Ray Vaughan makes what's his moderate tempo playing feel faster by surrounding it with slower, deliberate phrases, which creates musical contrast and interest. So when you're soloing, do you think about speed contrast, or do you just play at whatever speed feels comfortable? So try this. Take a solo you're working on and add slower sections before your moderately paced runs. You don't need to be playing blazingly fast, just faster than what came before. So if your fastest speed is like this, you can add some contrast just by playing something slower afterwards. It seems basic, but I find a lot of intermediates miss this. This contrast will make simple runs feel exciting and give your playing more dynamic interest. And it's just basic things like this which I find a lot of less experienced soloists miss. But even more important than when to play is knowing when not to play. I find intermediates are terrified of silence. So they fill every possible moment with notes, creating cluttered solos that exhaust listeners without drawing them in. Listen to the pacing in this next section. What Stevie Ray Vaughan is doing is what most guitarists are scared to try. He's allowing so much space in his playing because he understands that silence is just as powerful as sound. He'll play a phrase, then let it breathe for a full bar or more. I say it to my students all the time, but it takes a lot of confidence to do nothing and just be still. If you've played a good phrase, execute it well enough, it should be strong enough to stand on its own. Your listeners deserve a moment to enjoy what you've played, but most guitarists panic and immediately rush to the next idea. So be honest, when you finish a phrase, do you immediately jump to the next idea, or do you give it a little bit of time to breathe? So try this. Practice playing a short phrase, and then just let it sit before moving on to the next idea. If you feel uncomfortable, that's good. It just means you're learning to trust this power of space. And if your phrase is worth playing, it's worth letting people hear it properly. But Stevie Ray Vaughan had one more secret weapon that made his playing unforgettable: the element of surprise. Intermediate guitarists' phrases are predictable. They're always resolving to where listeners expect them to, creating solos that sound safe but forgettable. Do you notice something strange about these bends? Why do they catch you off guard compared to a typical blues bend? Stevie Ray Vaughan mastered the art of unexpected phrasing, using bends and movements that surprise listeners and keep them hanging on every note. They're not your typical blues bends that resolve predictably up a whole step. Modern blues and soul phrasing is often about creating moments that are unexpected, the WTF moments. This is what separates memorable players from forgettable ones. Anyone can learn the correct way to bend strings, but these greats know when to break the rules. Think about your own playing. Are your bends just doing the same predictable things, or do you surprise yourself sometimes? So really just try to do things which might seem really uncomfortable, but you might find a little bit of gold in there. Try this. Take a normal blues bend that you would normally resolve up a whole step, and then try to do something unusual with it. You can practice wrong resolutions that actually sound right in context, and this is how you develop your own voice. So here are the 4 tricks that Stevie used to make his solos an emotional weapon, so you too can now become an emotional manipulator. Well done. Here's the complete playthrough, and if you want the backing track and PDFs to help you out, they are available in the link below. But I've only shown you one part of Stevie Ray Vaughan's expressive power. If you want to see how he chose his notes to make his solos sound so emotional, I'd watch this video next.